Hello guys, Ivan here, and in this video we are going to take a look at the AMG factory in Affalterbach in Germany, the AMG HQ. We will see the engine production of the V8 and also the new 4-cylinder, and we will also meet the legendary engine builder Michael Kubler. So special thanks to Mercedes-AMG for having me in Affalterbach and for the special opportunity to see how the engines are handcrafted. So before we start, don't forget to like this video, comment down below what's your favorite AMG engine, and also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are notified for all new videos.
When in 2014 the GT sports car was presented, actually AMG came up with a brand new 4-liter V8 bi-turbo, and from then on every other car with a 4-liter bi-turbo was a version of that sports car engine. So the main specialties are that AMG has put the turbos inside, except for outside, where you will find them on normal V8 engines that are turbocharged, or V6, or V10, or V12. So the main reason for doing that is, you will later on see, when you see a completed engine, it's rather compact. You need to fit it in a GLC engine compartment, a C63 engine compartment, or when it's rather compact in a GT, you can actually put it very far behind the front axle. So the second thing is you get a very quick response of the turbos. Okay? So normally intake is here, outlet is here, AMG inverted it, and because the turbos are getting very hot, this is the reason why it's called hot inner V. The GLE has an internal starter generator, that's true. For the first time coupled with a V8 with that one. There are some smaller differences between the GT sports car engine and all the other 4-liter V8s. This is the oil supply for the GT, which is a dry sump, and all the other engines have a normal oil pan. So underneath this part here is much different.
You can even see the turbos when they are hot.
Right, and this is the compressor side, so this is the cold side, and if you turn around, if you go to the other side, you can see the turbine wheel. So this one is spinning at 185,000 RPM at full speed. One's the hammer engine, that's a version of a Mercedes engine, but heavily tuned back in the 80s. That one is a version of a Mercedes engine. That's the M139, that's the compressor engine that you know from SL55 or E55. So that was already a lot of engineering involved in-house. And that one is a 6.2-liter V8 naturally aspirated that you found in the SLS and the old C63. So that was the first engine that AMG completely developed by themselves. History, basically, is when you go back to where it starts in 1984, starting with a naturally aspirated engine that is 6 liters. So back then, engines weren't turbocharged, really. So you had to have huge engines. And if you actually move on, how things evolved, compressor, more torque, a lot more power than a naturally aspirated engine. And then if we talk about current engines, they're all turbocharged. This is when it was released, the most efficient V8 on the planet. That one's the strongest 4-cylinder on the planet. So a lot of record holders. And also if you look at the number of crisis engines ever won, actually you can see the company has been successful over a number of years.
So this is the V8 production. And you will see upstairs a 4-cylinder as well, handcrafted engine. This is a V8 assembly line. So the preparation for the new engine starts here. These are the engine parts for the assembly, right?
You do get pistons.
Okay.
And you do get conrods. This gentleman, he connects piston and conrod to a complete set. His work, so to say, is he delivers a complete set of piston. And every mechanic just grabs the set and then mounts them in the engine. Left corner, and then move with their car and their engine through the building.
Okay.
So it's a bit like shopping in a supermarket. You have the cart, and that's it. So on every station you stop and you perform a certain number of things, like here, rail, fuel pump, and so on and so on. Sometimes you need devices like this in order to hold something down, bolt something down. But as you can see, it pretty much looks already like an engine. So the further you move through the building, the more advanced your engine is. Wofür effektiv? Look at him. What he's doing right now is he's torquing down the bolts for the ejector rail. If you have a look at that monitor up there, you can see it's bolted down with a specific amount of torque. Now when he's finished and the torque on this specific bolt is correct, the line appears green. Okay? So that's a continuous check during production, and everything he does is he's now putting on the turbos.
So installation of the turbos.
He's preparing it actually.
Oh, okay.
Because we came from, let's say, the opposite side. We are just at the other end of the hall compared with where everything begins.
So we're almost at the end.
This is right at the middle.
Middle,
This
okay.
is 50%.
50%.
This is a lot of engine knocks here.
Stage 1, okay.
This is stage 1.
The beginning of the production.
You pick out the new block and attach it to the car. Okay, so once you've connected your new block with your car, you take the car to station number 2 and you start. And you know, productions are very easy to comprehend because you can just look at the shelves and you know exactly what's done there. Okay? So station 1 is putting in the crankshaft. And then a little later putting in the pistons, then putting on the cylinder heads, then putting on the rail, then putting on the turbo, and so on. So because we are approaching the end of the first shift, the line is almost empty. Okay, so most of the activities are over there. And you can already tell what's happening at the very end. As a mechanic, disconnect your engine from the car. You hand it over to that belt drive, and then your engine goes around the corner to be tested. The very last thing is you fill in the engine oil. Okay. So that's what's happening right now. And then if you look at him, he just completed his engine, disconnected it, and now for him it's time for station number 1. So he is picking up a new block and he starts working again. The test bench is behind it. So this is the belt drive and it's moving over to the test bench.
Okay.
Now we can see the test bench in a minute. This is a test bench. And when it's in operation, it fully tests the engine, everything.
Okay.
Mechanically, electronically, electrically. So it's a thorough test. This is a fully built up engine.
Turbos, okay.
And you can see the hot section. So this is where exhaust gas goes through.
Exhaust gas leaves. Okay. Turbine.
And the axle and the compressor on the other side. Compressing all the air.
Okay. Compressing the air and turbine starts to spin. Okay.
For the versions with Power Stage 2 for E-Class or S-Class or GT4 or G63, and there is the normal power version for C63, GLC63, and also the
So this is for the C-Class and GLC.
and also the GT Sports Car version. So the 476 horsepower for GT or the 522 for GTS. The GTC is also built here, so all sports car. All the sports car engines, including GTR. This is a direct injection engine.
Yes.
You don't want to have too much torque in the block, so the flow step is always more rigid. On the other hand, this one has a new fast stage because the internal pressures are much higher than the previous engine. Older engines, when you ignite, the internal compression in the cylinder was 70, 80, 90 bars. Okay? When you ignite here, very high compression ratio is 130 bars. So you need a different alloy.
Almost twice as much.
The block is much, much stronger.
Okay.
And much heavier, but also stiff line is exactly the same as here. So you've got one man, one mechanic, they pick up a new block, they walk along the line, and as you can see, we start with a new engine, and you can see on the right hand side, he actually just finished an engine, and this is the way it goes. This is the circulation.
And these marks?
They are just indicating what, because there are different versions of engine blocks.
Okay.
Depending on the engine type. So that one's going into C63, that one's GLC, this one is C63. The concept of the block itself is just identical.
So you can have the GT engine in the C-Class, basically. Very, very similar engine.
No, because you have to find a place for the oil supply because it's a dry farm.
But actually the construction is very similar.
But there is no room. The C-Class is much smaller. It's narrower, and if you look at the GT engine compartment, it's huge. It's really deep. And if you look on where the engine oil supply is, and the GT is on the driver's side, but next to the engine. And simply in a C-Class, you won't have the space for it.
But the DNA of the engine is very similar. That's what I mean.
Yeah, of course. So if you drive a C63, you can be proud that you drive an engine similar to the one in a GTR. This upper floor is completely reserved for the M139, for the four-cylinder. What would you say, what do you notice, what is different up here?
It's more quiet,
It's quieter? Yes.
more light,
It's brighter, okay.
brighter, yes. Less equipment from the ceiling.
Very good.
I think there was the robots with the parts.
What is the same as downstairs?
And the same I think is the principle that everybody is doing. They work on the engine in different order with different equipment.
Right. But you know what, Ivan? From a production point of view, you already explained the concept. So what's actually was different, or why it is different than compared with downstairs, is because up here we have Industry 4.0 combined with one man, one engine. Downstairs it's actually an evolution of an existing concept. Up here you don't have that many shelves.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
need
true.
to walk to a shelf and just pick up a part and then walk back. You've got everything at your disposal right here. So the idea is pretty simple. You get a preset packed set of materials, and that is running with you while you build your engine. So these are driverless transport systems, so they carry everything for you. And everything you need to have in order to build an engine is with you in that set.
Okay.
And again, you start over there, then you move with your engine throughout the line, and here you can see this almost looks like a finished engine.
So they move because from the ceiling there are different tools. That's why they move through the plant.
Partly yes, but you just recognize there aren't that many parts hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Because downstairs, for every operation performed by the mechanic, you find the tool right overhead. So imagine you take a mechanic's work and just clock them, and they need to walk somewhere to pick up a part, and they need to grab all the time up to have the tool. It's quite time consuming. So what you rather want to have is an intelligent way of producing according to Industry 4.0. So what they do is they have everything they need to have with their car.
Okay.
You see that here. Downstairs, all the tools hanging from the ceiling. Up here, you've got 2 torque wrenches. That one and a big one. And you've got all the different inserts. So if you need a different bolt size, you just take the tool. And everything up here is in the Wi-Fi, industrial Wi-Fi. And they create so-called virtual workspace around the mechanic and engine. So what the system does is it recognizes where you are. What is the next part and what is the specific bolt that you need to fulfill. And when you just accidentally pick the wrong wrench size, then the system wouldn't work. But if you pick the right one and you torque it down, they're all in Wi-Fi.
Oh,
So
okay.
I report back to the system by saying, all right, at this specific point, or this specific engine, this specific bolt is correctly assigned.
That's great.
So you get an automatic documentation system as you get downstairs as well. But up here it's driving by itself. So every time the mechanic moves on, the car system moves on. The first thing you see is the mechanic.
Yes.
And he moves, and then the set of materials follows suit.
And here is written the stage.
Yeah, we've got 16 stages.
Okay.
And it says a little bit of what's done here, so it's easier for us to orient. This is oil and refrigerator or cooling pipes mounting at the turbocharger itself.
Okay.
And above is mount turbo, and above is mount the deflector for the heat. Tobias, he will move on to the next station very soon, and then if you just cover the whole thing, his cart will follow suit.
Okay, great.
The engine is always the reference position. Okay, so it's
So first they move
like
engine
like
and then
a dog. You walk
then
your
the
dog.
port. Yeah.
Okay? And when you as a master move on, the dog moves.
So first they move the engine up to the yellow line, and then the cars will follow. And this stage?
Cooling pump and pipes. Again, a deflector, and then the engine wiring harness mount them and connect them with the ejectors.
It's much quieter here.
Absolutely. You know why? All the tools are electric tools.
Okay.
Downstairs they are pneumatic. A lot of them.
That's why. We can speak normally and hear each other easily.
Right. So for filming, it's much more pleasant.
Yes.
Here.
We have also natural light from the ceiling.
Right. You know, the concept is called blue sky. Because you've got a lot of daylight because you don't need the ceiling for hanging your tools.
That's true.
All right. Now, in terms of production process, this is it. That's the difference between upstairs and downstairs. First of all, around the corner is Michael Kübler. We have a design model of the engine.
What's the most important about this engine with the turbocharger?
The cooling system. Because we have a big turbo in here and we need to cool down because of the high power output of this 4-cylinder.
So the cooling is much more improved compared
Definitely.
to the previous generation.
Definitely, definitely. The whole engine is new development.
And turbo is now on the back.
On the back, yeah. On the previous one was on the front and now it's on the back.
So the engine is basically turned 180 degrees.
The engine is sit in like this on the car. The previous one was also there, but the turbo
Was in front.
Was in front. Yeah, definitely. As a S version, 421 horsepower for 2-liter engine.
I read that something with the turbo is similar to the GT63S, the roller bearings, I think.
Yeah.
So the responsiveness of the turbo is much better than the previous generation.
Of course. Yeah.
And also the bar pressure is higher.
Higher. Yeah, definitely. To get the power.
So these are all the engine builders.
You know, they are all the active.
All the active.
So if you collect all people who've ever built an
Of course, too much.
This there's not be enough.
Yes.
But these are the ones on duty, and these are the ones being allowed to.
Let him guess.
Sorry?
Let him guess. What do you think what the black ones are standing for?
I think it's for the Black Series.
So good.
There's too much of it. Okay.
And also I think on the S65 is black engine
On the
plate.
final edition.
Yes, final edition.
Right. You know what? This is a gentleman who was just with us.
Ah, okay.
So he is a Black Series mechanic as well.
There are some women also which are working here at the factory.
Women, yes. Because they keep rearranging. It's always hard to say, yes, look here. But I'd say we've got 5 to 10 women.
5 to 10. Okay. Here is Mike.
Here's my right.
4-cylinder is easier and quicker for assembly, right?
It's in terms of production technique, it's not so much easier because tolerances are smaller. It's very, very efficient engine, so you need to be very precise when you build it. I'm doing this for quite a while already, and I've met a number of people, and they all had one thing in common. They were very eager to meet their engine mechanic. Something where you can connect something you like with a human being, and that makes a real difference for people. And they are so happy. When you're a German customer, you can pick up a new AMG from Affalterbach. So what happens is, obviously, we try to bring customer and mechanic together. And it's usually a real treat for both sides. The customer is really happy that they have a face to the signature, because from then on, when they open the hood, show their friends, look, I've got an AMG, it's got a handcrafted engine. Then they can say, and I've met this gentleman. And it's usually, it's a very sweet story.
Yeah.
Second is, when you produce normally some industrial goods, you never ever get to meet your client. Except when you work as an engine mechanic at AMG. because also the mechanic says, oh, this is great. Do you remember the story I told you when we walked towards the engine plant? And I said the mechanics are very, very eager to have a picture of themselves with their engine in the car.
Yes.
So they can say, oh, today somebody from Australia came, or somebody from California, or somebody from China. And they all drive my product. So this is also a kind of identification of you with your company. Tobias Schultes is the man I just asked when you move on, because you wanted to film how this car moves on. To aluminium badges, and when you drive the Black Series, then obviously. From a material point of view, these are identical, but you don't get the frame around anymore. Black Series is that fascinates everybody. Now, when you think of AMG today, it's quite a large amount of vehicles, right?
Yes.
And we felt the need to tell a little bit more about what exactly is AMG. So you've seen all the different models. Now you can sort them by body style. What is SUV? What is an estate? What's a sports car? What's a coupe? Or you can sort them by power. So there's a family of 45s, 43s, 53s. See, the largest number of cars are equipped with the V8. Okay, so in terms of telling about the brand, this is good, but we needed to go deeper. So we have created a software that covers two different aspects of what clients usually ask. One is a design aspect. How does my car look like when I use this color or these rims? The other part is, what kind of technology does my GT4 door feature? So when we talk about design, it's rather easy to understand. You've got the vehicle here, and you can actually choose different colors and say, look, this is brilliant blue Magno, but I'd love to have it in silver. And to be honest, I'd love to have the night package and the aero package, and a little bit of carbon as well. And apart from the fact, in terms of rims, I like a black one as well. So now you get an idea of, should I choose my GT4 door in these specific configurations? I get a much better impression of the vehicle.
Yes.
Now, on
like a computer game simulation.
yeah, well, you can't do lap times also, so you can't really drive it. But
looks very realistic.
It is.
The image.
It is actually, and you know what? It's based on a computer game. The engine behind it is like on a normal computer game. When you recall the configuration I've just done, if you switch from design to technology, you've got the exact same car, right? So it's the silver one with the aero package and the black rims. So the idea behind it is we tell a little bit about what makes the GT4 door, for example, in terms of its body structure. Everything highlighted in red is, for example, something that gives the car additional rigidity. Because if you want to have a good handling, you need a very stiff body in white, because then all the work can be done by the suspension. If your chassis twists, this is usually not very good for sporty driving. Then, also, when we talk about the drivetrain, normally you can't really tell people something about the way engine, transmission, suspension system, all-wheel drive, exhaust and so on are arranged. So on the touch of a button you can easily take it away and then tell people, look, this is currently one of the best V8 engines on this planet. It's got 639 horsepower and 900 newton meters. It's combined with a 9-speed MCT transmission, and it's got a very clever all-wheel drive. Normally, 100% of the power...
MCT is multi-clutch transmission.
Multi-clutch transmission, exactly, where you do have a clutch system between transmission and engine that actually closes when you start. And when you stop, it opens again, but internally, the shifting is totally done with a closed transmission, so that there is just a seamless go when you press the accelerator. You talk to people about all-wheel drive in general, they usually say, well, it's a safety feature. I've got so much power, I want all-wheel drive. Here, with 4MATIC Plus, you can say it's a variable all-wheel drive, and it only gets power to the front when you really need it. So there are some driving conditions where you want to have all-wheel drive, but when you go through a fast turn, for example, you don't want to have it, because the grip on the front wheels is just not enough. And because we put in a lot of time, we've got videos to illustrate that. Look, this is race start, okay? So you can see it shifts more power to the front. And when you coast, actually it's rear wheel drive again, okay? Or when you do dynamic driving, like on a racetrack, as soon as you turn in, you will see there is less and less torque going to the front axle because they are fully occupied with turning, and all the grip there is, they need to change direction. So only when you go on the straight again, you actually see all-wheel drive coming up. Or if you go straight and level on a highway, what's the point in having all-wheel drive? So you can as well save some fuel. Only when you accelerate, maybe a little bit of power goes to the front axle, but mostly when you're cruising, you're having a rear-wheel drive car. Okay, in the winter, actually it's not so easy to predict what the car will do, because not necessarily will it shift more power to the front. It depends on how much grip there is, but the message is it's a very intelligent system, and it decides permanently by itself where the grip should go. Yes. Right. And the last thing is, this is something everybody understands, drift mode.
Yes.
Okay? So in drift mode, you just tell the all-wheel drive system, please don't do anything, just everything we have goes to the back.
Yes.
And then you can slide about. Now, another thing is, before though, it's in terms of aerodynamics, it's a very advanced car because it plays with the air and decides what the air should do in any given moment. For example, at the front, you guide the air, but if you have, let's say, components that needed more cooling air, there is an air panel up front that opens and closes. So a closed front is good for a good coefficient of drag. So you've got a clean front and a good acceleration. At the same time, you need airflow. So depending on the component's conditions, these flaps open or close. Another thing is, when you go to the back, there is an active spoiler that has different positions. And depending on how fast you go, what driving condition you're in, this spoiler opens or closes and then gives you either less drag or even a better drag, or it gives you maximum downforce, maximum stability. But again, like the all-wheel drive system, this is intelligent and the car always decides by itself what it should do. Alright, I think we've talked a lot about engine and transmission. There is one more thing that you will find on a number of AMG cars now, on the sports cars. They feature an active rear axle steering. And the idea is that if you have a car that has a very short wheelbase, it's very agile, but it's not very stable at high speed. But again, if you have something that has a very long wheelbase, it just goes, okay? Straight line stability is great, but it doesn't handle very well. So rear axle steering is your perfect feature in order to ensure both. At lower speeds, front and rear axle turn in different directions and give you more agility. At higher speeds, above 100 kilometers per hour, front and rear axle turn the wheels in the same direction, and therefore give you greater stability. These are some of the major features on the vehicle. And we find it quite easy to illustrate what actually AMG's competence is all about. Because if you think again of the product range wall, the GTs, they are not just good cars, they are also the brand shapers. So if you want to understand what technical competence a manufacturer has, always look at their sports cars. This is the showcase, so to say. And AMG has got a lot of, GT, GTS, GTC, GTR, GTR Pro, and then the GT 4-door coupe with the 43, 53, and 63, 63S. That's their range, and everything that's good and expensive in terms of technology you will find in these cars.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Welcome.